All right, everybody, welcome back to the Kleen-Rite Radio podcast. I'm Fix It with Phil, along with my good buddy Marc Tyndale, as always. And we are excited today. We are joined by Eric Wulf, the CEO of the ICA Association.
International Carwash Association.
Yep. Eric, how we doing today?
Yeah, we're doing good. Thanks for having time for me and inviting me to be along on the show.
Absolutely. Marc, where are we going with this today?
So we invited Eric on the podcast because we thought it was a fantastic time to talk about professionalism, participation, where do you get your education? And also, where is the state of the in-bay self-serve industry? I think there's different perceptions out there. I think some people think it's dead. We think it's alive. There's everybody else in the middle. And this is just to get the word out and see where the industry thinks they are. Yeah. Where do different people need? And I opened this conversation up with Eric a while ago, and he was generous enough to join us and give some perspective from, the car wash organization. He's got his finger on the pulse of what is actually going on and with Express and the trade show scene and everything. So that was really what brought this up.
I think that's a great way to start this out, with just that hard question of, Eric, a lot of people say that self-serve in in-bay has been forgotten. Why do you believe that is?
Well, I think, first of all, I think if you're running those stores, you certainly haven't forgotten about it, right? I mean, that's your livelihood. So it's not forgotten by plenty of folks. And kudos to Kleen-Rite and others for doing a great job of serving that community. But, I think from a macro perspective, listen, as we all know, the Express phenomena the last 20 years has gotten a lot of the attention, a lot of the headlines, a lot of the capital, a lot of the revenue, increasingly. And I think two things happen in the industry. One is the pie grew over the last couple of decades, meaning there's more consumer demand, there's more revenue flowing through car washes, all good. But also the market share, the slices of that pie changed. Mm-hmm. And the Express model, I think you'd have to say, took some share from everybody else. So not just self-serve in-bay, but I think it took it from, call it the convenience gas model, the rollover machines there. I think it took it from full serve and flex serve. So that's why I welcome this conversation. I think we've spent a good, 10 plus years really focusing on Express, and there's other ways to wash cars and other ways to have successful businesses in the car wash industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I circled this really big because we do have prep calls for these things. And talk a little bit about, I circled it when you said the ICA is not the Express Car Wash Association. I love how you talked around that a little bit. You are the Car Wash Association.
Yeah, I mean, we were founded in the 50s to serve the automatic car wash business. And so that's a fairly broad tent. But to be totally candid, we get this comment all the time. If I think back to the show surveys from our trade show back a few months ago, we'll get people who show up and they'll say, I'm looking for self-serve information. And they come to the show and it's all Express from their perspective, right? And let's be honest, they're largely right. I mean, most of what is displayed, if you're not really hunting around, if you walk into that show floor for the first time, it looks like an Express show. But when we design the stuff that we offer, we in the association world, we sort of have three businesses. We have trade shows, we have training programs, and then we have media and research. When we do those three things, we don't design them just for Express. We don't have a product for a flex serve operator or a self-serve guy or gal. We try to look at, our target market as we define it is an operator, an owner operator, somebody who's doing one of three things, ideally all three. They are growing, they're investing, and they're curious. So growing could be going from one store to two. It could be going from 200 to 300. Or growing could just be, I've got one store and I'm really giving it the time and attention. I have goals to grow that business. Investing means I'm actually going to spend some resources, time, attention, money, right? And then curious is I want to get out there and learn what's happening in the industry and how to make the business better. So that's kind of what we designed for and who we look to attract. I think that there are people who do that and people who don't do that in
Yes.
the express side, in the self-serve side. So it's not just model. I think it's more mindset than model.
I love that. Yeah. And we agree. And we talked about this before again, how the difference between, say, the express operations, they're a bit more professionalized, and the self-serve in-bay can be a little bit more fragmented. And it was interesting, the conversation we had at how flip-flop they are, the 80-20 rule.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just the dynamic of the money behind it, right? So, you have the express model, which is largely institutionally funded. And then you have the self-serve in-bay model, which is traditionally either bank funded or self-funded. And that just changes the way people attack a business. And I think it's good both ways. I think that what the express has taught us is that self-funded people can do all these things, maybe not at scale, but you can do it in your 1, 2, 3 stores and have great success. Our clients don't always have the confidence to do that. Now they're getting more confidence as they listen to this kind of stuff, and they actually perform what we're talking about.
So how can we show, or how can the independent operator show that they are ready to invest, that they are ready to grow, and that they are curious to try to revitalize that information stream to them, right? How do we show that metric to say, hey, it is worth putting the time and effort into your business and come out to the ICA and get some knowledge, do some research, meet some people, shake some hands, and figure this out so that you can make your, whether it's 1 site or 5 sites, what they can be?
Yeah, I think one of the other great things that's happened over the last, I don't know, X number of years, there's just so much information available, right? So it's easier than ever to get into the business in lots of ways. You can find pro formas, you can find P&L information, you can, do site analysis online with folks, right? So that makes it easier. But at the end of the day, I think it still comes down to the entrepreneur, the family, the individual deciding, is this the right type of business for me? Do I want to be in this business? Do I want to be in this market? And I think when you talk about individuals, let's talk about non-institutional for a minute, right?
Mm-hmm.
You talk about families, husband, wife, a couple partners looking for businesses to get in. I think this is where the self-serve rollover segment still has some nice attributes. Listen, as exciting as what's happened with Express is, to be honest, you can also make the argument that it's never been a riskier segment to be in for an individual, right?
Correct,
I mean, all these platforms, they want to go dense in a market, right? And there's M&A activity, and you're competing against, honestly, some of the largest capital groups in the world. I mean, truly, right? If I've got the capital to open one Express, that's a really serious thing for me to think about doing. I want to have a really great site and really know what I'm doing before I put at risk 5 million plus. Now, if I find a great store or a store I can rehab, right, that's a 4 and 2 or something like that, you're talking about a different capital outlay. You're talking about a different competitive set, because you could have an Express open up across the street from you, and that may not be a problem at all for a 4 and 2,
Mm-hmm.
right? In fact, I've got a great example here in the Chicago suburbs, a new Express operator, different ends on the block. They put an Express on one end of the block and a 4 and 3 on the other end of the block that they own.
I love
so
that.
those can work well together, right?
They do.
So
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Mark. So anyway,
No.
I just think this segment, I'm not trying to prognosticate too much here, but where we are with Express and the capital requirements and the competitive set, and where we are with, let's call it self-serve rollover and the competitive set and the capital cost, I think it's an interesting time where entrepreneurs really should be considering this if they want to get into the car wash business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would say if we look at our customer base, which is pretty large, it's a mostly low debt ratio group, right? It's not that they can't obtain the capital locally, with their bank or with a lease company. It's just that some of them just aren't doing it. It's good enough. My equipment, 20 years old, but it's still running. And then down the street, you might have another in-bay self-serve guy who puts all new stuff in, and he's probably raising his prices, and he's probably doing 30, 40, 50, sometimes 2x more than what the older car wash in-bay self-serve down the street is doing. We've had great luck in my market where I'm surrounded by expresses feeding off of what they did for us, bringing cars out of the driveways, getting people excited about car washes. It's brutal sitting at the restaurant or at the golf club, and people ask me all the time because they know I'm in the car wash business, and they're like, "Tell me about all these new car washes. Are they better?" And it's always like, okay, how involved do I want to get here with my friend? And most of my friends have a requirement that they have to use my car wash, or we're not friends, but that's not totally true. But they created an excitement and a newness around it. And I would say part of the attention that you talked about before was not only industry attention, they got consumer attention. Mm-hmm. And they did that through lighting, architecture, curb appeal, professionalized looking buildings. And my vision 10, 15 years from now is all the self-serve in-bays are going to have that kind of look.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah.
They do in Europe.
That's literally where I was going to go, Mark. Yeah, I have said this for quite a while, and maybe you've seen these, but we do a trade show in Europe every other year. This year's edition is coming up in September, and one of the things from going over there over the years that I've really thought is I'm eager to see come to the States is that self-serve. It's the buildings, right? It's the curb appeal. It's how it looks. It's open. Right. It's well lit. It's not using just cinder block. It's using maybe steel structure.
Yeah, they're kit car washes.
Yeah, they're really cool and welcoming. And I think too, an underappreciated part of the express phenomena has been the buildings. I mean, it's not just the conveyor and the machinery, right? It's the building. It looks professional. It looks like the place you want to turn into. It looks like a Starbucks Chipotle being built today. And yeah, some of those stores in Europe, to your point, wouldn't that be cool to see some rehabs here in the States be not just paint or power wash cinder block, but maybe take the next level and how can I put something together that really grabs the attention as I drive by?
Yeah, 100%. I actually did a few of those kit car washes, and they're still up today. They look really cool. They look different than driving by that brown brick car wash.
Right.
That says car wash on it. It doesn't even have a brand or a name on it.
So, Eric, from a 10,000 foot view, for the independent operator that's out there, what can they expect to learn and take away from visiting the ICA? Because I think there's a lot of independent operators out there that might be a little nervous about coming to the ICA. People believe that the ICA is turned into all express, but they're hearing that chatter online. But truly, what can that operator expect to gain from coming to an ICA?
Well, I think, listen, if somebody, first of all, if you're looking to get into the business, I wouldn't be shy about going to as many industry events as you can. I mean, listen, I understand taking a day away from work and getting on a plane and going to a trade show does require some resources. But listen, go to our show, go to the Southwest show, go to the Northeast show, go to the Kleen-Rite show, like go to some shows, get to know some people. There's a lot of research you can do online, but it's still, you get a lot of intel and ideas from shaking somebody's hand and walking around and seeing what's available. So one is, I just recommend everybody do that. If you're already in the business, I'd say if nothing else, because as I started, most of our show is oriented toward the conveyor operator, no doubt. That being said, I don't think there's any show that has more self-serve stuff than our show either. It's just the
Correct.
ratio. It's just the ratio. So you walk out there and the show floor has exploded over the last 10 years. There's over 200,000 square feet of exhibits. So yeah, a lot of it proportionally is express, but still you're going to find the self-serve stuff that you need to run the business. And I think too, I would say, listen, if you're in the business, you should look at the competition. You should be aware of what other people are doing. So take a look at what is happening in those booths that might be more oriented toward express. Take a look at the architecture booths, right? How are they laying out some tunnels now? What ideas can I take from that? What's happening with payment technology? What's happening with marketing? So all of those things are analogous to self-serve. There's a lot more than ever before at the show than just booths of conveyor machinery. There's so much more on technology, so much more on marketing. And I think, that's still a really rich opportunity for self-serve folks.
So another phenomenon, and I've been going to the ICA show probably, I hate to say it, over 30 years. And the last couple of years, I think I've learned more because, marketing companies are jumping in and, technology companies, the payment systems are changing quicker. Mm-hmm. Whereas everybody used back in the 80s and 90s, you didn't have as many choices. So the other phenomenon that I see with the mom and pop and the independents, the two buddies who are partners, mm-hmm. is the anonymity of them, right? So they don't respond to surveys. Hey, what would you like to? Is that a problem for you guys? Like, I could see PE guys saying, "This is the education that we want, Eric." So they tell you what they want, but the other group is someone anonymous, and they're probably not responding to feedback because they're busy or they didn't check their emails. It's not their full-time job, so it's probably harder for you guys to design education around that group, unless you hear something from, say, Kleen-Rite and say, "Hey, let's do this."
Yeah, I mean, there are still, how would I say? I mean, there's cultural differences in the business, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not sure that's where you want to go with the conversation, but it is kind of fascinating. I mean, if you look at the tunnel world, especially Express, we're kind of getting to the end of the founder generation. Like most of the founders have either exited or they're preparing to exit, many of them. Mm-hmm. And so they might still be around, but in 10 years, a lot of those folks are going to be out of that entirely. In the self-serve, use the other end of the spectrum. The self-serve is still very much a family and partner business. And you still have then that sort of generational outlook, right? It's not just a career, it's a lifestyle. It's providing for my kids. If my kids want the business, I'd love to pass it down to them. It's generating nice income. It lets us take vacations. It lets us put somebody through college. That's a very different sort of business goal. It's a very different timeline, and culturally it's different. I mean, yeah, it's I get a lot of calls from investment bank folks and analysts, and then I get a lot of calls and I get a chance to go to things like I was just with Keith Lutz, was it last fall at the Pennsylvania Carwash Association dinner.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so very different conversations. And I think, listen, both segments are changing a lot, but particularly in the self-serve rollover segment, yeah, it's true. Oftentimes those folks, we don't have as much connection to them because I think there is the commonplace that I might own a self-serve or two, but I'm also a full-time something else, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of a side. It's not my primary income. So we don't have as much maybe contact. I don't on a daily basis with the self-serve segment. But that self-serve segment is still, again, vibrant. I think it's a strong community. I think it's very family oriented. It reminds me a lot of what Express was 20 years ago.
Yeah. Definitely multi-generational. We sell, sometimes we'll take a meeting with a grandfather, a son, and a granddaughter. And they're literally upgrading their car wash to move it. The grandfather's kind of out, the father's still in, but he's 70 and he's trying to make it great for his daughter and her husband or whatever. I mean, that is a very common scenario for us.
I think along with what you said, Eric, I think there's a portion of it that in that self-serve, independent, smaller time operator scenario, they might not know what they need to know, right? Because just like you said, it is their second job and they're not completely 100% focused on it all the time. So I think there's a little bit of a gap of, hey, you guys should really consider this as well, just because they're maintaining and they're not growing, which is one of the words that, the ICA focuses on. So I guess the question, kind of the question that I had earlier is like, how do we help folks understand that they need to follow those three words that the ICA uses, right? How do we push that to them that they should look to grow, that they should be curious about how to make their business better, and ways that they can invest?
Yeah. Hopefully this answer doesn't come across as too brutal, but I think let me just
let it out.
Do
there.
it. We are a brutal group here.
If you're not someone, I go back to it's mindset over model. I said earlier, it's mindset over type of business, right? So if you're not somebody who wants to grow, I don't know that we can help you. I don't know that you two guys can help them. I mean, so there's a little bit of like, how do we get everybody to be better? Well, do they want to be better? Now, if you want to be better, then the ICA better be there for you, right? And folks like you, Kleen-Rite, you better be there for that customer. So, I think that when I go back to the three businesses we run, trade shows, I talked about that a little bit already. We have a manager training program, and then we have the research and magazine piece of our portfolio, so to speak. So if you want to grow your business and learn about what's happening in the industry, then I'd like to think we've got some stuff that could be good for you, right? Let's at least get you getting the magazines and getting the research every quarter so you kind of know what's going on. Let's have you come to a show every couple of years, or every year be great, so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. You have questions, we've got our team here outside Chicago to help you. We can help point you to folks in the know, so to speak, right? We can help you network into that. What, Phil, I think is harder is, this happens for me with expresses, with tunnels and self-serves. You drive by some stores and you can just tell, right? I don't think that person's looking to grow. Mm-hmm. I mean, so for that site, I don't know that I can rescue all those folks, but for those people who want to grow, want to get in, want to do something different and new, then our team better be there for that person. Yeah,
what we're finding is we can't rescue the guy that just sold it, but we can rescue the guy that just bought it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And, well, good example.
Yeah.
Personal question. Eric, do you own any car washes?
I don't. I never have, and now I can't in this role. In fact, my employment contract with the ICA board prohibits me from doing that. So, by the way, I'm not sure I'm courageous enough to do it anyway. But
I have another question. Is do you have growing, investing, and curious? Is that trademarked?
No, but you seem to like that.
We're going to use that. We're definitely going to use it.
I should have claimed it.
Yeah. So do you have any more? I got one more question because we have just a couple minutes left. If you were to throw a ball in the air, I've been through 2 or 3 cycles. My dad has told me about the 2 or 3 cycles in his time, and things are cycling. We feel like there's a big energy coming in with the in-bay self-serve. We're seeing a wave. If sitting from where you sit, what do you think the next thing is for in-bay and self-serve?
Oh boy. For that, well, I would start off by saying macro, and then maybe let me get to self-serve in a second. But here's something that I'll start with, kind of keeps me up at night. Anytime a crowd all goes in the same direction for too long, it creates systemic risk, right? Mm-hmm. economic cycles, any business idea. And, we have built a lot of stores in the last 10 years as an industry. And a lot of them aren't highly differentiated, right? Now, they're doing great by and large, but I think, if I was running a store of any kind, I'd be thinking real long and hard about differentiation. And that can be like architecture. I think it's increasingly operations and customer service and people at the store. And so I think maybe, that's maybe there's something there in the context of self-serve, right? So that's a model that people haven't, at least a lot of capital hasn't gotten the attention, certainly of Express the last 10 years, but it's a model that still works. It's a model that can be executed, particularly if you give it the attention, right? If you rehab that site and or scrape and build and or do something that catches the eye, like we talked about that has happened with Express stores, architecturally, whatever it might be. So, I think that, 10 years out, and by the way, I was thinking about this driving in today. My daughter's got a soft top Bronco. She'll only go to self-serves, right? Mm-hmm. She doesn't like going through a conveyor with her soft top. So I still think, and with sensors, by the way, and all the stuff that's going to come on vehicles in time forward, I can understand people are going to be wanting to have that do-it-myself kind of approach. So I think, the self-serve segment gives there's a nice opportunity there for somebody who wants to get in or grow your business because the competitive set is different. It is still a market that there is plenty of consumer demand for. It can work well with or against express or conveyor operations. And so, I don't know what it looks like, Mark, in 10 years. I'm probably not smart enough for that, but I certainly think, it's a very viable model and one that, folks should not shy away from considering if they want to get into this industry.
Well said.
Very well said.
Yeah. All right.
Eric, we got to close this out. Is there anything that we didn't talk about today or anything you would want to double down on through this conversation for the folks out there that are listening or watching this podcast?
How about you plug a few ICA events maybe?
Yeah, by the way, the second you said, do I want to plug anything, is the second everybody hit pause or turned off this deal, right? So,
well, feel free to plug Kleen-Rite more. That's okay
exactly.
too.
So now let me sell stuff and let everybody go back to turn it off. Here's what I would say is let's invite people to come be with us in the couple of events we have coming up. So one event's going to be in Dallas in November, the 3rd and 4th. We call it Roadmap. It's 2 days. It's not a trade show. Day one is all for functional leaders. So marketing, HR, operations. Come join us for that day, in and out. Second day the theme is projections. So more forward looking for sort of your owners and call it the corner office folk, a little more oriented toward future vision. So that's one thing. Come and see us in November if you can. And then, of course, the show is going to be in May 11th through 13. We're going to be in Nashville. Our format is it's always for the foreseeable future, Nashville, Vegas. We alternate. So next year's show, mid-May in Nashville. Hope folks will come out and see us there too.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Well, hey, we'll be there.
Yeah, we'll definitely be there.
Thanks.
Long after it's even over.
Yeah.
Yeah, we appreciate the work you guys put into those things.
Well, Eric, thanks for being on with us today. We greatly appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk about car wash with us and talk about ICA. And we will see you at bare minimum at the next show.
Yeah, thanks. And keep growing, investing, and be curious.
Thanks, Mark. And thanks for what you guys do too. Take care.
All right, see you.
All right, everybody. That's going to be it for this episode of Kleen-Rite Radio podcast. We want to thank Eric Wulf again from the ICA for coming on, sitting down, talking with us, talking about ICA education, their belief system, what they're chasing, and what we're trying to promote here at Kleen-Rite as well. We also want to give a huge thank you to Ascenium Capital for sponsoring this series and for helping all of our customers out there attain their goals.
They're doing a great job getting people the funds they need to help them buy new equipment.
Ascenium, thank you very much from Kleen-Rite and from Mark and I. And to everybody out there, thanks for stopping by and listening, and we'll see you on the next one.